Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with another chapter in the seemingly never-ending saga of Netflix's acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery, or is it now Paramount's acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery? Yes, I guess it's appropriate that Paramount is the home of the Godfather trilogy because every time Warner Brothers thinks that Paramount is out, they pull them back in. The big news that broke yesterday is that there is now a 1-week window opened for Paramount and Warner Brothers to renew discussions on a deal from Paramount that would put Warner Brothers in their hands and cause the breakup of the Netflix deal. And we're going to get into how we arrived at this point. It is a long and sordid tale, and we have to go back to the last full video I did on this deal. I've been keeping an eye on it in the meantime. The last full video I did on this was back in early December when Paramount had just launched a hostile takeover bid to have Warner Brothers shareholders reject the recommendation by the Warner Brothers board to take the Netflix deal and vote instead to approve Paramount's offer to buy the company, which was at that time and is at this time an offer of $30 per share all cash compared to Netflix's offer at that time of $27.75 per share, which was split between 85% cash and 15% stock. Also, it should be noted that Paramount wants to buy the entire company, not just the streaming and studios division, and has been pushing the idea that selling to Netflix is a risky proposition because shareholders don't know what kind of value they're going to get out of that network segment once it hits the market. Now, it should be noted that while the Warner Brothers board has the power to approve and recommend deals, the shareholders ultimately have the final say. So after failing to win the approval of the Warner Brothers board of directors, Ellison and Paramount decided to go straight to the shareholders. And at the time of their hostile takeover launch, they put an expiration date of January 8th on their offer. Right before Christmas, Paramount amended their offer to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, still offering $30 per share, but also adding that $40 billion of that investment was guaranteed by Larry Ellison, David Ellison's father and the head of Oracle. A guarantee of part of the funding for the deal was a key concern that was cited by the Warner Brothers Discovery board when they turned Paramount down. They were wary that Paramount wasn't going to be able to come up with the funds, and they were wary of who was supplying those funds. Paramount also matched Netflix's breakup fee of $5.8 billion if the deal doesn't go through, and they extended the expiration deadline for this offer to January 21st for the board to evaluate the offer and decide whether to reopen negotiations. However, the Warner Brothers board wasn't sold, and they rejected the new offer on January 7th, saying that Netflix's offer was still superior and offered the best value to shareholders, and many of those shareholders reportedly remained unmoved by Paramount's latest overture, with one major shareholder saying that the changes were necessary for Paramount's offer to have any chance of gaining traction, but not sufficient enough for the proposal to garner any major support. On January 12th, David Ellison changed tactics and sued Warner Brothers Discovery, saying that the Warner Brothers board was not sharing enough information about the prospective value of the company's networks division, which again would be sold separately if the Netflix deal goes through, with its shareholders, and they sought an order compelling Warner Brothers Discovery to disclose more financial details. The hope there was that there would be some information uncovered revealing that the networks division was potentially worth less than what Netflix and the Warner Brothers board claimed that shareholders could get for it, which would make Netflix's offer less attractive to those shareholders who would profit less from the sale of the networks. 3 days later, a judge dismissed the motion to have the lawsuit expedited, saying that Paramount had not proven that it would suffer irreparable harm due to the alleged incomplete information. So that tactic didn't work out either. 10 days later, on January 22nd, the day after Paramount's latest offer expired, Ellison extended the deadline to February 20th and officially launched a lobbying campaign for shareholders to vote against accepting Netflix's offer when it was time to vote, although Paramount still did not raise its own offer of $30 per share. Warner Brothers responded by saying that over 93% of the company's shareholders that had responded so far had responded negatively to Paramount's deal, which had been rejected at that time 8 different times by the Warner Brothers board, and they noted that Paramount still had not changed its $30 per share offer. However, it did seem like the door was open for some board members and shareholders to be swayed by Paramount if they did choose to increase that offer. While they were extending deadlines and filing lawsuits, Paramount also began beating the drum even louder that a merger between WB and Netflix should not and would not be approved by the government. At the heart of it is Paramount's claim that a combined Warner Brothers Netflix company would be monopolistic, and that combining HBO Max and Netflix would take too big a share of the streaming market. Netflix has countered that claim by saying that their competitors aren't just other streaming services, but also YouTube and social media platforms like TikTok, which would diminish their potential share of the market as a combined company. Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos pleaded this case in early February in front of the Senate Judiciary Antitrust Committee, with senators from both sides of the aisle appearing skeptical of the merger for reasons ranging from antitrust concerns to the preservation of film production and jobs in the entertainment industry to Ted Cruz's accusation that Netflix has, quote, the wokest content in the history of the world. But on the antitrust front, Sarandos claimed that YouTube in particular is a major competitor to both Netflix and a proposed combined Netflix and Warner Brothers because viewing habits are shifting from mobile to television, and every minute spent watching YouTube is a minute not spent watching Netflix or HBO Max. In a letter last week, Ellison responded to this claim saying, quote, if regulators were to accept Netflix's expansive market definition, it would effectively end any meaningful antitrust enforcement in the media and technology sectors. Every social media platform could claim to compete with every media service, and no transaction would ever raise concerns regardless of how concentrated a market actually became. And I hate to say it, but he's got a point. However, it should also be noted that while the letter, which was written in response to Democratic Senator Cory Booker, did address the senator's antitrust inquiries, it did not answer several questions relating to any interaction Ellison and or Paramount may have had with President Trump or the Trump administration, such as whether anyone at the company had been in direct contact with the president or members of his administration about the acquisition, whether anyone associated with Paramount had donated funds to the president, or whether anyone associated with Paramount has personally discussed with the president any changes that might be made to cable news network CNN if Paramount does acquire Warner Brothers Discovery and its cable network. CNN, of course, has long been a thorn in the president's side. In mid-January, Ted Sarandos began making public concessions in an effort to address concerns in Congress and in the entertainment industry about the potentially destructive nature of Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers, including a commitment in the media and to Congress that a Netflix-owned Warner Brothers would maintain a 45-day theatrical window for their releases. In another concession to Paramount's attacks on the deal, Netflix also converted its offer to all cash instead of a cash stock combination at the same $27.75 per share price in order to declaw Ellison and Paramount's arguments that Warner Brothers shareholders were taking a risk by accepting stock as part of Netflix's proposed payment. Last Tuesday, Paramount added another incentive to its offer. While Ellison has still refused to up the studio's $30 per share price, Paramount did add a 25-cent per share ticking fee for shareholders that would pay all WB shareholders 25 cents per share per quarter after December 31st of this year if a Paramount Warner Brothers deal hasn't been approved and closed. Analysts have said that this would have a roughly $650 million value per quarter. So if, let's say, a deal between Paramount and Warner Brothers wasn't finalized until July of 2027, Paramount would owe Warner Brothers shareholders an additional $1.3 billion. Paramount also agreed to pay the $2.8 billion fee that Warner Brothers would owe Netflix if the current Netflix deal is called off. After weeks of Ellison hammering away at the Warner Brothers board and shareholders, it seemed like the ice began to thaw last week with at least one shareholder and Cora Holdings saying that Warner Brothers must now reopen a dialogue with Paramount or they would vote against the Netflix deal. And that brings us to yesterday when Warner Brothers announced that it has opened a 7-day window, which closes on February 23rd, to have further discussions with Paramount about the studio's offer. While Paramount has so far refused to budge from that $30 per share price, Warner Brothers included in a letter to Paramount confirming that talks were reopening a very interesting statement. They said, quote, "On February 11th, a senior representative of your financial advisor communicated orally to a member of our board that Paramount Skydance would agree to pay $31 per share if we engage with you, and that $31 is not P-Sky's best and final proposal. We are writing to inform you that Netflix has agreed to provide Warner Brothers Discovery a waiver of certain terms of the Netflix merger agreement to permit us through February 23rd to engage with P-Sky to clarify your proposal, which we understand will include a per-share price higher than $31. We seek your best and final proposal." Through all of this, through the backbiting in the media, the threatened hostile takeovers, the thinly veiled threats of one-sided government regulation, the one thing that David Ellison and Paramount have so far refused to do is to budge on their price. But it would appear that the Warner Brothers board and the company's shareholders are opening this window because somebody told them in an unofficial capacity that allowing these further talks would guarantee at least a $1 per share increase to Paramount's offer, with an implied expectation that it would go up even further. And if Paramount follows through on that and does up their offer, well, then it's a whole new ballgame. Although it would raise the question of why Ellison and Paramount would go through all of these weeks of fighting when they could have just increased their offer to begin with. It certainly doesn't lessen the reported concerns that the Warner Brothers board and its shareholders have about the financial ability of Paramount to make such a big acquisition. We are just getting started on this deep dive into the latest between Paramount, Warner Brothers, and Netflix. But before we move on, I want to thank the sponsor for this video, Chubbies. We are bearing down on the last cold weeks of winter. Grit your teeth, we're almost there. But let me tell you what I've been dreaming about. I've been dreaming about the day that I can throw these bad boys back on. These are my swim trunks from Chubbies. Ever since I got them, they have been my go-to if I'm going to the beach, if I'm going to the pool. The pool is more common considering that I live in Arkansas. But if I'm going swimming, I'm wearing these. I'm excited to get back in the warmer weather and enjoy some time in the sun. And spring break is going to be here before you know it. Chubbies swim trunks are engineered with 4-way stretch fabric that are perfect for an all-day swim party or just lounging by the pool. And they're also super soft. They don't have that scratchy synthetic feel that you get from the trunks that you might already have in your drawer. And Chubbies is celebrating 15 years in business with the return of their iconic original shorts, still designed for comfort and built for stretch. With over 2.6 million customers, Chubbies proves that great shorts never go out of style. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving viewers here on the channel 20% off with the code DanMurrell at chubbiesshorts.com. That's 20% off your order with the code DanMurrell at chubbiesshorts.com. Give your thighs the VIP treatment they deserve with Chubbies. And hey, while you're there, why don't you support the show and tell them that I sent you? Now, it's important to note that this does not mean that the Netflix deal is off. Warner Brothers accepted Netflix's offer back in December, and if they go back on that, Paramount now will have to pay Netflix a $2.8 billion breakup fee on top of what will almost assuredly be billions more than what they're currently offering. And there's no guarantee that the Warner Brothers board and or its shareholders will vote to accept a Paramount offer, even if they do raise the offer price. But this isn't about the preservation of a storied Hollywood studio or saving the theatrical exhibition business to these people. To them, it is about money and how they can make more of it. That's it. In a statement today, Netflix and Ted Sarandos commented on the reopening of talks with Paramount, saying, quote, "While we are confident that our transaction provides superior value and certainty, we recognize the ongoing distraction for Warner Brothers Discovery stockholders and the broader entertainment industry caused by Paramount Skydance's antics. Accordingly, we granted WBD a narrow 7-day waiver of certain obligations under our merger agreement to allow them to engage with P-Sky to fully and finally resolve this matter. P-Sky has repeatedly mischaracterized the regulatory review process by suggesting its proposal will sail through, misleading WBD stockholders about the real risk of their regulatory challenges around the world. WBD stockholders should not be misled into thinking that P-Sky has an easier or faster path to regulatory approval. It does not." Netflix went on to claim that Paramount Skydance, which releases its quarterly earnings next week, has been downplaying its financial underperformance and that the company may not even be in a financial position to ultimately fund and close the transaction. It should also be noted that even if Paramount increases their offer, Netflix will have an opportunity to match it or even top it if they so desire. For its part, Warner Brothers also set a date today of March 20th for its shareholders to vote on approval of the Netflix deal. As of right now, it appears that the WB board is regarding this week-long window as a final chance for Paramount and Ellison to get everything out of their system and perhaps finally submit an actual best and final offer that they may reject anyway. And if the board rejects Paramount's offer next week, well, then the Netflix deal goes through and Paramount loses, right? Well, not exactly. In a letter acknowledging Warner Brothers' approval of the 7-day window, Paramount also complained, shocker, about only being given a week to continue its negotiations, saying that normally the reopening of negotiations like this would include a statement of acknowledgement on WB's part that a better deal was a likely outcome of the talks, which would not come with a time limit. Paramount said in part, quote, although the board's actions are unusual, Paramount is nonetheless prepared to engage in good faith and constructive discussions. At the same time, we will continue to advance our tender offer, maintain our solicitation in opposition to the inferior Netflix merger, and proceed with our intention to nominate a slate of directors at the upcoming Warner Brothers Discovery annual meeting. Which means that even if Warner Brothers rejects Paramount's offer next week, Paramount plans to continue lobbying shareholders to take its current deal of $30 per share and intends to submit for nomination a new board of directors picked by them to run against the current board of directors. This is very similar to what Nelson Peltz and his group attempted to do at Disney a few years ago. And if elected, this Ellison-approved board would replace the current Warner Brothers Discovery board, would reject Netflix's deal, and would approve the Paramount deal, probably at its current $30 per share offer. That is, if the Warner Brothers board doesn't accept Paramount's new offer. To put this in simpler terms, David Ellison is like a kid who lost a game of basketball on the playground. I was taught growing up that a sore loser would take their ball and go home. David Ellison not only hasn't gone home, he's argued that he actually won the game, accused the refs of cheating, asked the teacher to disqualify the other team, promised to pay the audience to declare him the winner, and is now planning to install his own scoreboard operator to give him the victory, even if all that other stuff doesn't work. And the thing is, it might actually work. It's become very obvious that David Ellison is not giving up until he has tried every possible option and then some to get his hands on Warner Brothers. And the question I have to ask is why? Why is he willing to go through all of this when it's clear that he is going to pay a potentially ruinous price to his company to get it? A lot of people say it's because they think he's a Trump lackey who wants to own CNN to please the president, but Ellison could do that without buying the streaming and studio division. He could let the Netflix deal go through and then bid on the networks division and pay a lot less. So what's going on here? Is it pride? Is it embarrassment? Is it a wealthy kid who's never been told no? Or does he have some master plan that we don't know about? We know why Netflix wants Warner Brothers. It's because they want everything. They're like Thanos. They're one or two stones away from completing the Infinity Gauntlet and becoming rulers of the universe. If history has taught us anything, it's that attaining power only leaves the powerful thirsty for more power. And it's usually not to the benefit of those with less power, aka you and me. So to summarize where things stand currently with the two deals that are in front of the Warner Brothers board, Netflix's offer is $27.75 per share, which is an all-cash offer, and they are also saying that shareholders will get additional revenue via the sale of Warner Brothers Discovery's networks, although the value of those networks is still to be determined because nobody really knows what the market is willing to pay for those networks. Paramount's offer today is at $30 per share, all cash, with $40 billion of that financing guaranteed by Larry Ellison. The sale includes the entire company, so shareholders don't have to worry about a possible or probable value for the networks. There's also a 25% share ticking fee for every quarter past December 31st, 2026 that the deal isn't closed. Again, that's estimated to be about $650 million per quarter. And Paramount will pay the $2.8 billion fee that Warner Brothers Discovery will owe Netflix if Warner Brothers decides to accept an offer from Paramount. So on one hand, with Paramount, we have a deal that would leave a newly merged company with tens of billions of dollars in debt that it would be desperate to pay off, almost certainly resulting in billions of dollars worth of synergies, also known as layoffs, in an entertainment industry that's already suffering, not to mention the continued consolidation of a media landscape that seems to progressively be moving towards state-approved news. On the other hand, with Netflix, we're looking at a company with a near monopoly on the streaming industry. I'm sorry, Ted Sarandos. I don't buy that I am your competition. And also the absorption of a legacy studio on the thinnest of assurances that it wouldn't result in the collapse of the film exhibition model as we know it. So, two great options, really. Given that we have an actual ticking clock here, I will be staying on top of this story over the next several days, so you can stay tuned right here for the latest major developments. This could be over as early as next week, or it could drag on until the Warner Brothers shareholder meeting in March. Either way, there are lots of fireworks still to come, so if you're not subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when I'm putting out a new video. Be sure to tune in later today because I have my live show this afternoon. I'll take any questions that you might have about this situation. Be sure to stay tuned right here here for the latest in movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.